Months ago, I took on the challenge of covering all of Soul Eater. For those of you who aren't aware, Soul Eater is among my favorite series, though I don't really like the writing at times. Today I'm covering once more 3 arcs, in a much different fashion than I covered in the other 2 videos. Whereas I just did a read-through and gave my opinions at certain points, now I will be doing a full analysis and read-through. So I will be describing what's going on in the chapter, as well as giving my opinions and analysis every now and then. So if you like this video, then please come back as I will be covering the other 17 volumes in the series. This Chapter 4 arc consists of somewhat interesting parts. First, we are introduced to the death weapons, in the case of Asura being resurrected. We have Justin the Guillotine, as well as Marie and Azusa, who we don't know yet. When they all get to this meeting with the Shinigami, we all get some information on Asura. Asura is a coward, one who even fears his own shadow. And this is in part due to his madness. His mind is too far gone to actually grasp onto stableness. He's scared because of that lack of mental stableness. I enjoy that idea, and there are so many ways you can go with it, and many concepts you can use. The one that I feel not only fits the series, but opens the door to so much more is the madness wavelengths Asura emits. As it's been a while, let me explain what wavelengths are. Wavelengths are like puzzles. People can only pair up with specific characters, like Blackstar and Tsubaki, the greatest duo in the series. But they can also be emitted and felt. The more well-known cases are with soul resonance, and as well in the case of Asura. His wavelength can make people insane by dragging that madness out of them. And considering that Asura's wavelength is at god level, it would be insanely easy to make people insane. But he's not that strong yet. However, in Stein's case, it's already worked. I enjoy how it's teased that Stein is kind of losing it, going from telling Azusa that he would love to dissect her to explaining what's going on immediately afterwards. There's something Stein is clearly trying to hide and keep covered in his own mind. It's small details like this that makes me appreciate Asuchi's storytelling, using visual storytelling alongside dialogue, making for an entertaining arc through and through, and you can tell this is being used later. The main 7, currently 6, begin a game of basketball. Auburn explains to Stein that the kids are trying to reclaim a sense of normalcy that had been lost in the prior arc. Using this, we get to see Krona, the Demon Sword Kid. And one thing that I enjoy is we get to see Maka and Krona be friends in this. It's weird, I'll say that. It's weird, I'll say that, considering they were just trying to kill each other. However, in that arc, they learn that Krona is not an enemy. He is a puppet, one who cannot stand up for himself, being controlled by the one who is really responsible for what happened to Soul. Stein looks at the file of Krona and notes a few things. Krona's blood was replaced by the demon sword, who was melted down into a vat of black blood. A demon weapon requires the souls of witches to become death weapons. But it might not be the Meisters who evolved the death weapons, maybe it's the mother of the death weapons. But he wants to dissect Krona, and he hides that. But what lures him in is Medusa, or an apparition of her. She's being used to display this madness in a way the audience can understand. She is the embodiment of his lack of fear, becoming this beast. As discussed in the last video, fear is what was keeping him from losing it. But with that fear gone, there's nothing stopping him now. Apart from that small sign of sanity deep within him. She will appear like this several more times in the series, but we'll get there very, very soon. But we also get this understanding when Stein was asked about the golem that attacked the Czech Republic. Darkness was reaching for him, trying to drag him deeper, but Marie turns on the light and the darkness stops trying to grab him. As it was stated earlier, Shinigami assigned Marie to Stein in order to keep his mind more in check. The 3 that have been sent to the Czech Republic are Soul, Maka, and Krona. They encounter Saw, an enchanter who takes them to the oldest golem, when no one else is willing to say anything. However, this is a trap. We know this when these words leave his mouth. The ones who seem the nicest, the ones who never raise a fuss, those are the ones who've got the blackest of hearts. An obvious reference to Medusa, but possibly one to Shinigami. We'll see this later, but we'll get to see that later. We're back with Stein in the library, and he's looking through the library for information on the golems. He notes that the golems were created 800 years ago, around the same time of the demon weapons. But in response to this, Stein then mentions something about a character only referred to as that Heretic. We're back to the fight once more when Maka feels a soul wavelength from within the golem. However, golems shouldn't be alive, as they are things. This all brings me to the conclusion that there is someone either inside the golem, or the golem was forged with someone's soul. I'm not entirely sure which one is more likely, but I hope that I'm at the very least close to the answer. But it seems that several things are off. The golem has a soul, Saw's been alive for over 800 years, demon weapons have been in existence for 800 years. There's simply way too much that either doesn't make sense or builds off of each other that seems that there's much more lore behind. And that question builds within us. What's going on? All this simply must be connected. There is no other explanation. The golem brings down hell on earth onto Maka, while Saw constantly mentions how his soul has been existing for 800 years. 800 years is being hammered, but let me bring your attention to a prior statement. He's been living life after life nearly 30 times in a row. Perhaps a body snatcher? No real clue here, but I know that it'll be important in the future. The golem prepares to attack, and the only thing Maka can think of is for Ragnarok to use Screech Alpha. So she asks him, but he says not even for 3 pieces of candy. She then offers 4, 6, and finally 15, to which Ragnarok agrees and takes on the golem. This is a form of writing that has grown on me. Breaking up the serious scenes with comedy is just something that I've been appreciating since I've watched OG Dragon Ball. And while I didn't exactly enjoy the majority of OG Dragon Ball, seeing this makes me somewhat nostalgic for the old school way of writing, and not depression or seriousness 24/7. And there's a joke here and there. As soon as Stein learns of what it is, the heretic mentioned earlier shows herself. Stein states that he remembers an old legend from the Low Village. Black dots appear in the peripheral vision of villagers around the area. These black dots were like spiders. The heretic split herself into hundreds of baby spiders and scooted herself across the globe. Suddenly, those spiders appear, and Saul welcomes back this heretic, Arachne, the oldest of the 3 Gorgon sisters, and the mother of the demon weapons. After learning about this, Stein tells Shinigami of this information. He tells the Shinigami that he will go to the Czech Republic and help them, but Shinigami has that covered, and we get to see Justin with a coffin in tow, wondering if it will be enough. The sheer badassery of this scene is something else entirely. Honestly, one of my favorite panels in the series so far. It shows off the seriousness as well as the power that would soon follow it, making for a nice teaser for what is to soon happen, or what Justin wants to happen. Arachne shows herself and says that she knows everything. She knows that Sol and Maka got into a fight over who burnt the curry, as well as who Krona is. Arachne is a concept that should work by all means. She is easily the best idea, because to put it as she did, she knows everything. I don't know if she'll be used in this way, but I hope that she'll be almost untouchable, because she knows how these characters act and how they fight. She'll use that knowledge to her advantage and take on those who attempt to take her out. She sacrificed the souls of witches to make these demon weapons, and is corrected into humans that transform into weapons. I believe that this is referring to people being weapons in general, like Soul or Tsubaki. She made human souls and weapons into one form, so this is not just how demon weapons came to existence, but also weapons in general. But hey, that's just my theory. Krona, filled with this anger and confusion, attacks Arachne, but she stops him with just one hand. She then orders Saw to take out this child, and he listens, kicking him across the field. This kick cuts through Krona's black blood, showing that he's at least on the level of 4th Arc Maka, or maybe he's stronger. It's kind of hard to tell as of now. Saw goes for the finisher, but he's immediately stopped. Justin shows up with the coffin in tow, and no shit's given. Executioner that appears with deafening sound, Justin Law. Justin is a death weapon who can turn into a guillotine, and can fight without a Meister, so he's a clear and perfect match for Saw. Saul dives back into that thought of becoming stronger on his own. Seeing these 2 other weapons fight without Meisters, Saul still doesn't completely value Maka as a partner, not realizing that he can be stronger with Maka instead of without her. And just when the fight's getting good, Saul and Arachne must withdraw from the battle, as the golem is running out of energy. And to get them off their backs, the golem attacks once more, and Justin decapitates it with one single shot. The final shot of the arc is Arachne now having the same reach as him, if not more, saying that she can finally beat Shinigami with this army she has. My opinions on this arc is that it's actually really good. It still falls into that 2-character arc that I really despise. We'll see if it stays like this, but if it does and the writing is still as good, I think we'll have a great time. Arachne talks to her underlings about a machine that can manipulate morality. From how it sounds, well, manipulates morality. Genius analysis, I know. This machine is being created to spread the madness and speed up the process. But to protect the old man, she hired a bodyguard, Mifune, the human whose soul is equal to 99 human souls. But when questioned on how she got him there, her response is that everyone has a weakness. This is Villains 101, and manipulation is extremely close to making a great villain. Whether it be lying or using something against someone, like in this case, manipulation is key to a great villain, something I hope will be explained in this arc. After some dumb and comedic writing with Kid organizing the shelves, and... can I even show this panel? Sid and Nigus, his weapon, talk, and Blackstar follows them. He overhears that Arachne is creating a demon weapon, and he declares that he's going there to avenge Maka, because no one lays a hand on his friends and gets away with it. Soul states that he won't go because he believes that he'll slow down Tsubaki and Blackstar, showing that this madness is still taking effect. As the ghoul opens the door, telling him that the door is still open, Soul tells him to close it. First of all, this character development Blackstar is showing is really good. He no longer only thinks about himself, and he's thinking about more of what happened to his friends, his allies. And it's done in a way that doesn't feel forced. It's not forcing this change on the character, but it feels completely natural, because of what happened in the Big Bash arc. Stein is training in eliminating his fear, and sees Medusa once more. The madness is slowly getting to him more and more. She tells him that eliminating his fear is dangerous, and that he was taught this by the DWMA. She, or his madness, is trying to get the better of him, attempting to break him, at least for a second. She asks him if he would feel inclined to raise the spear, and not the shield. The raising the shield part of this dialogue refers to the fact that Stein is playing defensively, and is trying to fight this madness head on. But the raising the spear part is about him giving into the madness and losing that little amount of sanity he has left. It's this small bit of dialogue that really makes me understand the situation Stein is in. He is attempting to fight this madness, but no matter how hard he fights, no matter how long he trains to keep this madness under control, there is no coming back from when he gave himself into the madness, and then disappears. I personally believe that it's shown here that Stein won this battle, but is slowly losing the war. He is considering just giving into this madness and letting it take over, but he didn't completely submit. Because even though this conversation lasted longer with the madness, showing the madness taking more and more of an effect, he still will not let this madness win. Blackstar's development as a character is a very welcome change to his character. I believe that Blackstar is doing this because of what happened in the Big Bash arc, when he failed to stop the resurrection of Asura, refusing to allow something else to happen to his allies. He used to be a character who was more only concerned with himself and the views others had of him, and less about those around him. But this slow change is something that I hope to see a lot more of, because it's done in a way that it doesn't feel forced and it doesn't feel random. We know why he wants to change, and we can see him trying to. Mosquito talks to the scientist about the machine. Madness is measured by morality, and without morality, madness doesn't exist. He talks to Mifune for a second, asking him if he doesn't like serving them in exchange for the protection of Angela, the small witch. But as long as he's protecting Angela, he doesn't care about what he has to do. This is the weakness Arachne was talking about prior. She's using this weakness of his to get what she wants. Hopefully we'll understand more of how this affects Mifune in the next chapter, but as the chapter ends, we get the greatest sight of them all. Blackstar is here, yet the greatest character of all time enters the scene, and is about to fight Mifune. Mifune asks Blackstar why he stands there, as he says that he defends children. But why does Blackstar, a child himself, stand before him? The answer is quite simple. Blackstar is here to avenge Maka. Mifune pulls out the infinite sword style. All of the swords thrown plunge into the ground, and even so, Blackstar can feel the energy emitting from each one of them. Blackstar blocks the first attack, parrying before immediately countering. Mifune can see that in every move Blackstar makes, he's matured, referring to both his fighting style and his mental state. The strength difference between these two is, as Azusa puts it, like night and day. Blackstar locks Tsubaki around one of the swords, and sends it flying at Mifune. He then catches the blade and dodges the scythe before picking up two more swords and throwing them at Blackstar. Mifune's blades bind bind Tsubaki to the ground, and he runs across the swords to get to Blackstar. It's stated as Mosquito that swords are much more than just something you swing, and after saying that Mifune slices at Blackstar, who dodges, but the sword hits another sword into the ground and grabs it before slicing once more, before again stabbing the sword through a link of the chain and attacking again. Tsubaki uses a smoke bomb to get around Mifune's attack, when suddenly, with nothing else left to do, Blackstar enters the uncanny sword state and uses Shadow Star. Mifune dodges the attack entirely. Mifune is easily one of the best anime or manga swordsmen I've ever seen, and with the final blow approaching, Mifune uses his infinite sword 1, 2, 3. He's growing the number, attacking Blackstar with more and more, but the swords seem to just be floating around him, up until 12. Then he multiplies the swords by 2, the 24 sword style. All the swords cut once more after the 12 sword style. He tells Tsubaki that Blackstar's wounds are shallow and not to worry. He asks them why they're here, and Mifune apologizes for what he did, but he had no reason to do so. Tsubaki said that he raised his sword for Angela, not for the facility, but Tsubaki wants him to teach kids at the DWMA, but he declines. It's not a place for Angela to be, as the DWMA is the enemy of witches. We get to see how Mifune came into contact with Angela. He once worked for a criminal organization, and was shown to like kids from the beginning. Not in that sense, you kitty diddler. And was sent on a mission to capture or kill a witch, who happened to be Angela. But to guarantee the protection of Angela, he must kill Blackstar and Tsubaki. But just before he can, Mosquito gets shot, and an explosive set by Sid goes off. Sid is 3 miles away sniping at Mifune using Azusa. However, Mifune senses their position and moves into their blind spot. But before leaving, Mifune gives them some candy to give to Maka, but it's seaweed flavored candy, showing how Blackstar feels about this situation with this bitter taste in his mouth. Before we dive into this chapter, I want to say something here. There isn't as much in this chapter as I had hoped. This arc analysis will be much shorter than the rest of the arcs, but anyway, enjoy. This chapter starts off in an extremely disturbing way as one of Medusa's snakes enters the body of a child, possessing that kid. I'm scarred for life now. I mean, I know I already asked this, but can I show this? Can I even show this? Eventually, a spider shows up and Medusa, in that child's body, kills the spider, knowing that this is Arachne, finding her out. Medusa then proceeds to wander out of the house, presumably going to find her sister. She enters the Arachnophobia headquarters and talks to Arachne, basically saying that Medusa's new appearance is just enough to pull the wool over people's eyes, and how she fractured her soul in quite the same way as Arachne, and survived that way. However, something caught my eye. Arachne said to Medusa, "Here, you stand before me, the one who betrayed me in our fight against that Shinigami 800 years ago, the one who pushed me into almost certain death." This gives me several things I simply must know. Why did Medusa do this? What did she gain from this? My guess is that she did this to obtain the demon weapons, and experiment on them, which eventually resulted in Krona's painful existence. Meaning that now I think about it, Krona is technically also the son of Arachne. I don't want to think about it. Speaking of Krona, she also states that she must retrieve something she left in Death City. So, Sid and Igus have found out that the morality manipulation machine came from a page of the Book of Iban. The Book of Iban has been decided by Shinigami to be sealed off rather than destroyed, which makes you wonder, why didn't he elect to destroy this book, and just to keep it intact? Perhaps this is being done to set up something with Stein using it, making something that results in his rise or downfall. Or possibly he's keeping it to study for himself. However, what we know is that Shinigami doesn't want any other person hearing of this book. Not Auburn, not Kid, and especially not Stein. But I realized something while writing this. On the back of Volume 8, it asked that Shinigami wouldn't possibly think of crafting a demon tool himself. Personally, I think that Shinigami has some closer ties to the Book of Iban than I initially thought. Maybe he created some of the things in the book, or maybe even worse, the book itself. But what do I know? I just wrote a 4,000 word script for a single video. Please help me, my life is constant agony. Class starts and Blackstar is late. Due to a fight, and for those of you wondering, as long as you have a witness, you can fight anyone. As Blackstar states, he simply must get stronger. This is obviously not the same Blackstar we originally knew. But I love this character development, especially considering that now we know what he means by this line. to protect those around them. This new lesson they're being taught is team-wise soul resonance. This is unlike anything we've seen before in the series, or more like should be unlike anything we've seen before in the series, because it goes the wrong way, and Blackstar gets attacked by his teammates several times. Now, before I talk about everything that matters in this arc, let me say one thing. I absolutely despise this writing technique for Soul Eater. It feels episodic, making me really hate the way the characters are presented. It worked for the prologue arc, where it showed off each team in a designated chapter of their own, but here it's just really unneeded. Atsushi has a big cast and wants to show them all off equally, so instead of making arcs where you got Blackstar and Mako, or Blackstar and Kid, oh yeah, that one was just simply awful. He just says, huh, let's just do it this way. It works for the anime because it feels more natural, but for the manga, it just feels incredibly weird. Probably because I'm not used to this writing technique for manga, but let's get back to the main part of the video. And please, like the video, I beg of you. This being talks to Kid, saying that the key is a demon weapon crafted by Iban, to which Kid says that he sounds like a loser. But this thing says that Iban and Shinigami are the same being. They are both one. So here, we have confirmation that Shinigami wrote the Book of Iban, meaning that I'm right again, I tell you! Also, Medusa talks to Krona and manipulates him into attacking the school. This arc was just boring and awful. Also, there was this mouse witch there, like, you know, so Medusa has something to do with this. Personally, while this arc was awful, well, more of a character arc because, well, it's like 3 chapters, I really like what's being set up here. It's setting up that Shinigami is not what we thought him to be. So if that turns out to be where this is going, I've got to say, that is incredibly good. It gives us credence as to why he wants to save this book and not destroy it, and simply seal it off, because he has a close tie to it and isn't ready to get rid of this book yet. But anyway, everyone, my name's Talon Talks. I thank you all for watching this video, and I'll see you all in the 4th Soul Eater video.